Last night, House Republicans approved a bill that would let 14-year-olds in Washington, D.C. be charged as adults for serious crimes, the lowest age threshold in the region. The move is part of Donald Trump's sweeping effort to toughen what he says, to toughen D.C. crime laws and expand federal power. Here's what is in H.R. 5140, okay? To lower the age at which a minor may be tried as an adult for certain criminal offenses in the District of Columbia to 14 years of age. The minimum age drops from 16 to 14 for adult prosecution. The transfer to criminal court for juveniles is reduced as well, and these changes will apply to any crimes committed after the laws take effect. The legislation will also cap sentencing breaks for youth at 18, broaden police pursuit powers, and give Donald Trump direct authority to appoint Washington, D.C. judges, removing the city's independent nominating commission. Now, here's a look at the one Republican who voted no, Kentucky's Thomas Massie. He was a lone GOP dissenter on both the crime and juvenile sentencing bills. Democrats who voted yes are Henry Cuellar, Texas, Black Caucus member Donald Davis of North Carolina. And y'all gonna call him in a second, control room, because I wanna know why in the hell he voted yes. Laura Gillen, New York. No, put him back. Jared Golden of Maine, Susie Lee, Nevada, David Min, California, Malik Glusenkamp Perez, Washington State, Eugene Simon Vindman, Virginia. Yeah. Now, here are the Democrats who did not vote on the bill, okay? Who did not vote. Now remember, we're talking about, okay, guys, hold up. Okay, we have Don Davis saying he didn't vote as 8, and now he's on here. Okay, are two separate bills? Why do we have them in two different graphics? Need y'all to explain. Okay. Okay, well, you pull the last graphic up. That's Don Davis of North Carolina. Pull the next graphic up. That's the same photo, guys. That's not Dina Titus of Nevada, okay? That's Don Davis. I know who the hell Don Davis is, all right? Okay, Adam Gray of California, Mikey Sherrill, who's running for governor of New Jersey, Dina Titus of Nevada, all right? Now remember, there were two different bills, and so that's what you have going on here. Texas Republican Brandon Gill introduced the bill, pushing further than any neighboring state by removing judicial review for minors charged as adults, meaning a 14-year-old could face adult court with no chance for appeal. Scott Bolden joins us right now, he's attorney here in D.C. Scott, first of all, what do you make of this? And walk us through, what crimes are they talking about?
They're talking about, as written, the most violent crimes, violent armed robberies, murders, carjackings where there's a physical injury. The problem with their description is that with the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jean Piero, I think her name is, a former judge and former prosecutor, but a Fox News personality. Prosecutors have great discretion. And so when they charge a 14-year-old who may be part of an armed robbery, but there's no injury, the Republicans want to just lock them up as adults, put them in adult penitentiaries if they're convicted, and throw the key away. They want to give up on them at 14 years old. Man, at 14 years old, your heart and mind and brain hasn't even developed enough. If you're part of the least, the lost, or the left out, we're just not going to give them another chance if they're part of a violent crime, right? And the Youth Offenders Act, the one thing you didn't talk about was that the Youth Offenders Act, they lose these young people. Instead of being able to get a youth offender treatment up to 24, they've reduced that to 18. So now we're going to just lock them up, warehouse them, and throw away the key. We know research, and it's cited by the Washington Post, is the kids who are in juvenile detention are more likely than not to be recidivists than those when you lock them up with adult population. Because when you lock them up with adult population, they become adults real quick. And they learn from adults real quick. And they may be abused by adults real quick. And then when they get out, if they get out, they've got a felony record. It's not private because it's not juvenile. And what is their way forward, if you will? There's no way forward for most of them who are poor and disenfranchised. And so it is, again, the Republican view of this is to just lock them up. But we know that doesn't solve crime. For example, D.C. has the highest rate of incarceration per capita of any urban major center. And guess what? We still got crime. Donald Trump still federalized the police and brought out the National Guard. And now the National Guard is gone. And we still have crime. So locking them up isn't the answer. It's a continuum of care in regard to crime prevention programs. Oh, I'm sorry. They cut $800 million from crime prevention programs for major urban centers, so they don't believe in that either. It's unbelievable. It really is.
See, Scott, the deal here is simple. They know they can screw with D.C.
Yeah.
That's all this is. That's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, no doubt. And because of that, Mayor Muriel Bowser has had to toe the line or thread the needle and what have you. Half the city wants her to fight because, remember, statehood and self-determination is always on the line in D.C. And we've got a lot of it, but we don't have statehood. We don't have a vote in Congress. We don't have U.S. senators. And let me just tell you this. Before you start blaming the Republicans for that, the Democrats have controlled all three houses on at least two occasions, under Barack Obama and under Bill Clinton. And D.C. still didn't get statehood or even greater rights than they should have with Democratic control. So as a former state party chair, I often say, at least we know where the Republicans are. Their vote for hell no. But the Democrats pay lip service to it. They put it in your Democratic platform, but they've done nothing to effectuate it, period.
So, Scott, this is the Washington Post story.
Yeah.
It says right here that there were two bills. 31 Democrats joined Republicans in voting to restrict judges from having discretion to dole out lighter sentences to young people.
So they have mandatory minimums now.
Right.
That means the judge has no discretion. If it calls for a mandatory minimum of 10 years or 20 years, the judge has to go with that statutorily.
So 31 Democrats voted for mandatory minimums. 8 voted alongside Republicans to allow 14-year-olds to be charged as adults. Now, it goes to the Senate where the filibuster requires 60 votes to advance. And then what it says here, the notable Democratic support for at least one of the bills, largely from lawmakers facing competitive re-election races, underscores D.C.'s vulnerability in Congress. And here's the whole deal. Okay, these vulnerable Democrats, but you don't want Washington, D.C. telling y'all what to do in your state.
Right. They're in vulnerable states and they want to appear to be hard on crime. They've got some tough re-elections because they've got some Trump voters and MAGA voters in their districts. And so there's no repercussions or no prejudice to them to use D.C. as a whipping block, if you will, or a whipping boy. They can vote for this, but they wouldn't vote for it in their own jurisdiction, though. And D.C. historically has always had these elected officials, Senate and Republicans, who experiment with the district with absolutely no voter repercussion. And so whether they're with the CBC or whether they're Hispanic, if they're in a tough re-election, this is an easy vote for them, politically at least. But I got to tell you, when they take away the Attorney General and Trump gets to appoint his own person as Attorney General, because right now the Attorney General is elected, and when he's taken away the D.C. Judicial Commission, which is a commission of judges as well as leading lawyers in D.C. who vet candidates who then go to Norton, Congresswoman Norton, and then go to the White House, right? That's a very important vetting process. You're going to take that away, so now Trump is just going to appoint his people. And so as a result, D.C.'s, at least those who govern and oversight, they're not taking away self-determination or home rule, but they're taking away large parts of it. And I got to tell you, before it's over, why would he stop here with criminal justice? That just happens to be the flavor of the day. By the time in 4 years, within 4 years, why doesn't he just take it? He just takes home rule away, and it sets up a commission to run D.C. like it was before we got home rule, I believe in 1972 and 1976. And so as a result, we're very vulnerable right now. And here's again, what do you say all the time, Roland? Elections matter, voting matters, and America is getting just what she voted for, at least the majority of Americans. It's just unbelievable. He telegraphed what he was going to do. It's all in the 25th Foundation or whatever that 25th piece is, but it's all in there in his campaign. He told them, they voted anyway, and now a lot of people are saying, well, wait, we didn't vote for authoritarianism. Yes, you did. That's exactly what you voted for, or you stayed home and didn't vote. So now we're living those repercussions.
And they also, of course, are trying to target the bail system. They want to detain all people before trial who are charged with violent or dangerous crimes while bringing back cash bail in certain cases.
And we know that doesn't work because the Johns Hopkins study, when Marilyn Mosby, former client of mine, tried it in Baltimore, Johns Hopkins researched it, looked at the numbers, and said that not prosecuting people for marijuana and prostitution and going without and letting them back on the street with certain programs, they were less likely to not come back to court. They would come back to court. They were less likely to be recidivism and move forward with a cashless bail system or a no bail system. So the research just counters all of these political myths the Republicans tell themselves. They just really do. In fact, the really bad issue is we know that, as the Washington Post cited, young people put into adult penitentiaries are more likely to become recidivists than if they matriculate through the juvenile system, where they have programs to support them, and you got a shot at them if they're 14 or 12 or 10 or 16. This process that we're about to go through with the Republicans is inhumane, if you ask me. They just don't care, and they're going to warehouse them, and they're going to come out of jail and more than likely commit more crimes. Take that, Republicans. That's your crime prevention policy. It's a failure. It's dead on arrival.
All right, Scott Bolden. We'll see what happens in the United States Senate.
All right, man.
Thanks a bunch.
Pray for our people. Pray for our people.
Indeed, indeed. Republicans don't care. They do not care about recidivism. They do not care about rehabilitation. All they care about is lock them up, throw away the key. They don't care. So they don't give a damn who they throw in jail. It's all about we're tough, we're tough, we're tough. But then they don't want to even pay for stuff. It shows you how insane these people are.
Yeah, for them to decide that now they're going to include the age bracket of 14 to 16-year-olds in possible adult crimes is insane, given the fact that they've cut DC's budget by $1 billion. I have heard nothing about what's going to be the plan for the fact that there will be this influx of cases in adult court, what they're going to do about possibly housing more juveniles that are going to be charged by adults. Because let's be honest, Jean Pirro has made it absolutely clear from the beginning that she wants to target the youth in DC. Now, I know a lot has been made about the curfew, but that's where it started, right? DC does not have safe places for youth to go at night. I grew up in New York, and I had places like the mall. I had places to go and ride rides, to play games. These youth do not have that. And those that are not just sitting at home playing video games, but they want to be out and be social, they don't have a place to do that right now, not safely. So instead of investing resources in that for DC youth, they're choosing to prosecute them and to place them in jail at a very vulnerable time in their life. And this is just wrong.
It is. And Rebecca, I mean, what we're dealing with individuals who do not give a damn about young black youth. They don't want to actually fund the very things that can deal with crime. Their philosophy with everything is prison, prison, and more prison.
So a few things, Roland. For the audience to know that there are no federal prisons inside of the District of Columbia. So what that means is if you are sentenced to prison time and you are a DC resident, you are shipped across the country in various states into the federal prisons that are in those particular states. And something to note, especially under the administration that we're in, is that if you are a for-profit prison, and you are trying to increase revenue and you are trying to be profitable, there's only two ways in business that you could be profitable. You either have to increase revenue or you have to decrease cost. Ultimately, you choose to increase revenue and decrease costs at the same time to make as much profit as possible. So, when we're talking about for profit prisons, what that means is in order to increase profit, that means more people have to be locked up. To continue to increase profit year over year, that means every single year, more people have to get exceedingly locked up compared to the previous year. So when you have different diversion programs, which is intended to decrease the number of people in prison going into the penal system, guess what? That is the antithesis of for-profit prisons. I understand under President Biden, there was a move to remove for-profit prisons on the federal level. However, we're under a different administration that's putting profit over people.
Of course, this is how Fox News always spins these things. Raven, this is the headline: Dozens of House Dems vote against crackdown on D.C. youth crime after Trump backs off Capitol Police. The bills were led by Representative Byron Donalds and Brandon Gill, respectively.
My goodness. I mean, the spin is just so deeply nefarious, I think, especially in a moment where Republicans have been fighting tooth and nail for the pedophiles in the Epstein files not to be held to account, right? So y'all are fighting to protect pedophiles, but you don't want to protect children. You don't want to give children who have been caught up in a bad situation, likely because they've been under resourced, to have recourse for that. It's just deeply, deeply harmful in terms of an approach to crime and how we address that in a way that's meaningful and addresses the root source. I also want to talk about Texas Republican Brandon Gill specifically because he brought this bill, for consideration. And I just find it very rich because this individual was just in trouble for breaking the law himself, for not disclosing $500,000 in cryptocurrency that he purchased, which he was required to disclose by a certain deadline under the Stock Act. So, it's really just funny to me. It's always, not for me, but always for thee, right? The rules don't apply to them, but they apply to us tenfold, 20-fold, 30-fold. The last thing I think is really important to name here is the point about Trump being able to appoint judges, right? So we know that he's been complaining nonstop about these quote unquote woke judges, which is essentially his way of saying that judges are not making decisions aligned with his personal agenda. To me, this feels like a more direct pathway for him to enact his authoritarianism, right? So now he doesn't have to go through the process of things like where the LA judge said that ICE was running operations that were unconstitutional and then having to essentially cut that off at the knees with the Supreme Court, that higher court decision negating that lower court decision. Now he can just go directly and choose the judges himself. So this is really about consolidating power, criminalizing Black and brown people, and doing so unapologetically.
Well, that is the case. And Rebecca, those Democrats who voted for mandatory minimums got some explaining to do.
Absolutely. And even if you felt like you were going to be in a contentious election next year, guess what? It is September 2025. That means you have 14 months to go knock on doors and explain to people why you decided to make sure that DC actually have rights that matter, to make sure that you weren't going to lock up 14-year-old children in these federal prisons with general population. And something that you mentioned earlier, Roland, is that and even Scott mentioned, it's the harm that happens when you have a 14-year-old in general pop with adults. I think Scott was very kind with how he said, "Oh, these kids will be attacked." But let's say what it is: these kids will be raped repeatedly over and over. These kids will also become hardened criminals that these particular folks on the Hill are claiming that they are already, and they are not. Their brains aren't fully developed. They're not fully fully formed, and there's still time to do intervention to make sure they don't go down that path. But something that I saw in the comments that I want to lift up, when you are putting young people, when you're putting minors into a federal penal system, someone said, you know what, that's preparing these young bodies for free slave labor. And that's what it appears is what's happening here.
So I want to do this here. So the bill that dealt with it was, again, there are two bills, okay? So HR 4922 is called the DC Crime Act. This is the one that passed 240 to 179. So I want to walk y'all through. So there was 0 present, 13 did not vote, okay? 13 did not vote. I wonder why they didn't vote. Okay, but let's go through here. So let's see here. So what I'm looking for are the Democrats who voted yay for this bill, okay? So you see if the first one, Adams, North Carolina, no. Aguilar, California, no. Amo, Rhode Island, no. Then you get to Arizona. Auchincloss, out of Democrat from Massachusetts, voted yes. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find. And so these are all the folks who voted and how they voted. So looking for the folks who voted yes. Okay, nay, nay, nay. More Democrats who voted nay. Nay, nay, nay. Let's see here. Clyburn voted no. Conaway, New Jersey, yes. Correa, California, yes. Costa, California, yes. Cuellar, Texas, yes. Davids, Kansas, yes. Again, Congressional Black Caucus member Don Davis, North Carolina, yes. Let's see here. Okay. Looking for more. Looking for those Democrats that voted yes. Golden, Democrat out of Maine, yes. Gillen, Democrat out of New York, voted yes. Gonzalez, Democrat out of Texas, yes. Goodlander, Democrat from New Hampshire, yes. Gray, a Democrat from California, not voting. Let's see. Also a Green from Georgia, not voting. Harder, Democrat from California, yes. Let's see here. Looking for more Democrats who voted. Captor, Democrat, Ohio, yes. Lee, Democrat, Nevada, yes. Levin, Democrat from California. Actually, that was a no, 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 no. Lynch, Democrat, Massachusetts, yes. Mannion, Democrat from New York, yes. Let's see here. Min, Democrat from California, yes. Moskowitz, Democrat, Florida, yes. Panetta, Democrat from California, yes. Pappas, Democrat, New Hampshire, yes. Riley, Democrat from New York, yes. Ryan, Democrat from New York, yes. Schreier, Democrat from Washington State, yes. Soto, Democrat from Florida, yes. Stanton, Democrat from Arizona, yes. Titus, Democrat from Nevada, not voting. Torres, Democrat from California, yes. Tran, Democrat from California, yes. Vindman, Democrat from Virginia, yes. Whitesides, Democrat from California, yes. And that's the final one there. Andrew, the reason I chose to do that, because oftentimes when we talk about these things, when you see these stories, it'll be 240 to 179. No. We need the names. Folk watching need to know if their member of Congress voted for mandatory minimums. All Republicans did except one, but 31 Democrats voted for H.R. 4922.
Yeah, and anyone that knows anything about how hard everyone worked on criminal justice reform, especially during the George Floyd era, knows how destructive mandatory minimums are to not only the defendants, but their families, and gives them zero hope of rehabilitation and gives judges zero discretion to actually look at who the person is. So it's important for everyone, really, it's public knowledge. You just pulled up a website where it's public knowledge to know where their representative is voting, because you're right. When that issue comes to New York and that issue comes to California, you already know that these people that have major influence in those regions and in those areas are going to be making decisions that are not going to be beneficial to the people that they're governing.
Absolutely. And Rebecca, bottom line is we should know those names. People should be aware. And to your point, they have to defend it and they got to be called out on it.
Yeah, this is what it means for accountability. Step one is you vote for people, you vote for the candidate of your choice. Step two, you monitor and you see exactly what it is that they're doing. Step three, if you disagree with the choices and the votes that they're taking in their legislative body, then you hold them accountable. You hold them accountable by making appointments or showing up to their office, by placing phone calls, by doing letter writing campaigns when they have a town hall, if they have a town hall, showing up and expressing your displeasure. The fourth tactic here is if you see that there are a series of votes that you disagree with, that you think is harmful, that is anti the reason why you voted for your particular candidate of choice, then you mobilize your friends and neighbors and other like-minded people who also share that same thought. That is how you hold elected officials accountable. Just voting or deciding not to vote the next time isn't enough, but there's that in-between time during the governance, during the legislative sessions. That's when you have to express your content or your miscontent on what's happening with your particular elected official.
Raven?
Absolutely. To build on what's already been said, I think this is really what distinguishes us between MAGA, right? MAGA is a cult. They fall in line. They do what they're told they're supposed to do. We hold our people to account. When folks really meet the mark, we give them their flowers. And when they fail to meet the mark, we hold them accountable. We demand better. We demand answers. We demand change. And if we don't see that, then folks are going to get voted out. So I think really just to hone in on what's already been shared, that accountability piece is really paramount here. And these electeds need to be able to answer for their decisions because this was a really poor one.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.